So we're just here about 2 minutes early. We're waiting for hopefully the internet to kind of even out. Guys, I'm not having a very good internet day, so hope you're doing well. I'm here with Jane. We're just kind of kicking it. It's good to see you guys. And let's see, Rashida and Maria were on way earlier. Rehan and Jason. Jamie, do you know Jamie?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Hannah.
Amazing designer at Drybar.
Awesome. Very cool. Yay, Rosie, thanks for joining. And Garen, it's been a while. And Cecile. And there's Sarah Jean. Did you connect with Sarah Jean? I hope you guys were able to connect.
I did email her. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
And then Martin, awesome. Well, let's hear where you guys are coming from. And also, Jane would love to know if you are a packaging designer. You don't have to be in the beauty industry, but we're just wondering if you design packages. Who designs in the 3D space? We'd love to know. Yay, excellent. Very cool. So let us know where you're calling from and also if you're a packaging designer. Yay, Michelle.
Yay,
Michelle, what are you designing in packaging?
Oh.
You don't know what you're doing. It takes a while, right? To source all the materials and try to figure out what's available.
Yes, yes. There's a lot. Yeah, just a lot of collaboration, I feel.
Right. And I bet you're lucky because you do have those resources available to you. But did you do packaging before you got into Drybar? I mean, did you do? No,
no, actually, yeah. I've always wanted to, but I did everything else but that. Digital, print, even environmental graphics, but then not necessarily packaging. And I think there was a lot of crossovers, like all design.
Right, especially environmental, right? You have to figure out where people are viewing it from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, you're working with a 3D space. Okay, so we have a couple here. Let's see. So, Michelle, you're working on some stuff for Disney. That's awesome.
Nice.
Let's see. Rosie is doing some label stuff. Eric, not a packaging designer, but always interested in design field. Hey, Eric. And then Vance designed food packaging for 9 years. Yeah, that's that's awesome.
Yeah,
hey, Debbie,
food packaging has a whole different thing on its own with regulations and all that jazz.
I bet. Excellent. Cecile's interested in packaging. She's only designed labels. Well, again, depends what the label is for. That's still working in a 3D space. And then Sarah Jean is doing beauty packages for Japan's market, which should be really fun. Yeah, excellent.
Nice.
Well, thank you all, guys, for joining us. I will ask you just quickly if you can share this event out. We're getting started. Let's let everyone know. Use the share button. I think it's in the top right corner for you. Or you could just highlight the URL and let everyone know that we're getting started. We should be on for less than an hour. But who knows, with my internet, it might be shorter. I don't want to jinx it or anything. But. Okay, so.
Knock on wood.
I know, knock on wood, or knocking right now. All right. So again, thank you so much. Both of us are in Los Angeles. Jane is in Orange County where Drybar is located. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Excellent. So I had met Jane, actually I sourced her for Inside the Minds of Brilliant Designers event for General Assembly, and I stumbled on her LinkedIn account and I thought, that's kind of cool what she does. And interesting enough, Drybar is growing leaps and bounds and has been exponentially for the last few years. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But I just wanted to introduce, we're happy to have Jane here, going to be talking about typography and packaging design, especially around regulations and what she does for Drybar. Thank you so much, Jane. And do you want to give us maybe a little more extended introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for myself, like you were asking before, I started working with Drybar about 4.5 years ago, and so I've been doing packaging specifically for about 4 years. I've been in the industry since 2006. Since then I've had a vast, very different experiences. Like I said, from digital to print to large scale And in terms of Drybar, should I start this just because I have some
Sure, let's just
imagery
do
that I
it. Sure.
could, yeah.
Let's get started.
All right.
Excellent.
Share.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Can you see that?
Yes. Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Drybar, for those of you guys who do not know, it's a salon. We currently have about, I think, 80, 85 salons across the nation. And what we do is we don't cut hair, we don't color hair. All we do is blowouts. And what blowouts are is that you'll go in and you'll get your hair washed, and then they'll dry it and they'll style it to whatever style you want it to be. And so it's an interesting concept, but then there's a lot of people who go in as regulars. There's also people who go in for events like weddings or graduation or whatnot. And the interesting thing about Drybar is that the reason why it's called Drybar is because everything is in a bar theme. So it's kind of fun. So like if you were to go to like your neighborhood bar, you will go in and you'll sit down on a bar top. There'll be like a bartender, you'll order a drink. Maybe sports playing on the flat screen. So kind of like that. In Drybar, you'll go into Drybar, you'll sit at the bar top. There will be, you'll order, you can't actually order drinks. We don't necessarily have a full-on bar, but you order a drink, and then there's a menu that you get, and you get to order your hairstyle, and all the hairstyles are named after cocktails or whatnot, drinks. And there's flat screen playing chick flicks, and a shelf full of not necessarily liquor, but it's like Drybar products that's all named after bar themed as well. And so it kind of gives you that whole bar experience. So that just makes it a little fun. And so yeah, if you were to leave Drybar, you go in and then you leave, you might end up with one of these hairstyles. These are just a few, but just to show that, that they're all named after drinks, which is really fun, right? Like the Mai Tai, you get a little like beachy waves. This straight up is straight up. And so, yeah, in terms of my early work at Drybar, when I first started working there about 4.5 years ago, I started working on it was a lot of everything. It was just my creative director, Cameron Webb. He is amazing, amazingly like brilliant. And there was like one or two other freelancers, and we all kind of did everything, wore a lot of different hats, and I'm sure some of you guys can relate if you guys are at a company that has fewer designers wearing lots of different hats. And yeah, it ranged from social, digital, to marketing materials, collaterals, promotionals, all that. And then now I focus on the product line, which is package design. And so all of the packaging for our liquids, as well as all the tools. I work on the packaging as well for that. So, and then as we've been expanding, like Rachel was saying, we're just, yeah, we're in different channels of Drybar, and slowly growing outside of the US market as well, which is also prompting a lot of change to be needed on all of our packaging as well, to include additional languages and whatnot. So that's kind of the background. Do you have any questions for me, Rachel, before I dive in?
No, I don't see any questions here.
Okay, cool. So there was so I was kind of trying to think about what I wanted to talk about, here, and I mean, it's the obvious thing to talk about type on the front of these packaging. But I also thought I would love to focus or also look at what's going on in the back. Actually, I'll show a really quick video. I think it explains this video also. There's no sound, but here it goes. So I think so. This was created by the marketing creative team. Actually, but basically, I feel like on our packaging, it's so easy to focus on the front, and I think the front is important because that's what people look at first, and you know, people might even think like, who looks at the back anyways? But I think it's, as a designer, it's also you know, especially that's something the foundation of the typography, you know, what can we do to make the backs still look good, even when there's, you know, the legal department telling us all this stuff to put on, marketing telling us what to put on, and still making us all sorts of ingredients and what to put on the back. And it just gets so cluttered, but what I wanted to do is kind of walk through one of the products that we have, Detox, which is probably our best-selling product, and walk you through like some of the changes that has been needed just because of all of there's legal stuff, there's also, you know, going abroad and adding additional languages. And so through this process, hopefully it can be encouraging for you guys whenever challenges come across your way, where, you know, all sorts of people from all different departments comes and tells you to keep adding and adding and adding more information. And so Detox, so it's an aerosol, as you can see, and back in 2013 is this is what it looked like. This is what we launched with, and
Jane?
Yes. Yes. Rachel?
Hey, Jane?
Yes.
Yeah? Am I still there? Okay. Yes, you had dropped off for just a second.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. Let me just say something really quickly to everyone who's here. Guys, if you have questions that you can ask, go ahead and put them underneath Ask a Question tab, and we have kind of we have a little giveaway afterwards, right, Jane?
Oh yeah, we should have mentioned that in the beginning.
Yeah, so as you're formulating your questions, it's fine to put them in the chat bar if you have anything really quick. But if you have something that takes like some more explanation, definitely use the Ask a Question tab in the lower left-hand corner. And then we'll have a little something for you. Possibly. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so right now there's no questions, but you're talking about Detox.
Yes. So back in 2013, this is what it looked like. This is what it looked like when we launched the line. And you can tell that there's English only on there. And what I realized back when I saw this, so this is the flat view of it. What I realized, like, I started asking a bunch of questions about, like, in my head about little things like, you know, do we really need a semicolon there? Maybe it's not necessary. That, like, kerning looked funny, you know, just like little things. I'm just asking questions in my head, like, is there ways to make this a little bit cleaner? Like, I mean, it still looks good, but I think it's just, I just kept seeing things like the ingredients is so hard. Like I kept seeing holes everywhere. And so, and then it's like all caps, doesn't need to be all caps. So just different questions that I was asking myself. So 2015 comes around and we are told that we have like brand new regulatory information. So probably like longer warnings and whatnot. And we also need to add French. That means like French on everything, like doubling up everything that's already on the can. Warnings and descriptions and how to use the product, everything. And so, so this is kind of like an outline of the information that we had, and the highlighted ones are kind of like the new information that additional information that we got. The other information is probably, and then we also needed to add French on top of that, on top of all that, and stick all this onto a bottle. And so we realized, like, you know, there's not a lot of room, you know, and I think lawyers often will come to us and tell us, you have all this empty space on the top, like try to fill it up. But, you know, as designers, you know, and you understand that just because there is an empty space, you don't necessarily fill it. And so what we ended up having to do is kind of go back to and look at our entire line and find out where our equities and so the icon is important. The typeface, the leaders, and the product name, which is also the bar theme, like Stocking Bomb, Mondale, Triple Sec, Hot Toddy. They're all like kind of named after drinks or like the bar theme. And also we felt that the metal overshell on most of these on the bottles were very important as well, to kind of tie all the elements together, especially as we were needing to save money on packaging and not customize necessarily every bottle. Some of the bottles we were using were stock bottles, like the cheapest ones, where we're just adding color. And how do we add something a little something to make it Drybar? And we felt that these metal overshells did that. And so taking all of that, what we ended up with in 2015 is this. So you can see that we've added French, and we've actually removed the bar graphics that was on the bottom to make room, because we felt that was the right. And so and also I tweaked the color. I felt like the color before looked slightly army-like, and so made it a little bit prettier.
So it was more gray before. Now it has more.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has a little bit more color in it now.
Color, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's that until and then just showing the backs of what I did there. So you can see like there's all the way more information on the back, but I definitely played with the typeface. So like the font, I mostly turned it into sans serif. I still tried to keep Mrs. Eve's, which is like our font, like on the top. The ingredients, I still I made it lowercase. It's kind of tricky because with lowercase, the FDA, they usually go off of the lowercase o. It's so weird, but they say like the lowercase o needs to be a certain size. And so that actually requires us to be at a certain size. The lowercase would still save more space than the uppercase. And so I changed that. And I also felt like having uppercase and lowercase on the previous version, there was just a lot happening in that bottom area where you kind of wanted to disappear away. And so just kind of turned it all into a similar look down there. And then we had to make our barcode bigger because we found out that our barcode wasn't fulfilling requirements. And so all these things that gets added at first, I was so like, what? But it's been scanning fine. Why do we have to make it bigger? And but then when I sat down to think about it and tried it out, I realized I think I could still make it work. And I think, yeah, I think I got to make it work. And so 2016 comes along and we're told that Detox Dry Conditioner is going to launch. And dry conditioner into like last year was a little bit kind of like a new thing. And so we were still going to call it detox. So we didn't want people to misunderstand if we do anything different with the design, that it's a updated look. And so I was told to do something more with, like, to make it different from one another. And so what we did here was we ended up changing dry shampoo to be really bigger, like a lot bigger, and same with dry conditioner, just to make it stand out more. But so like
the name, the actual name of the product is larger.
Yes, exactly. The name of the product got larger just so that it can be easier to shop. But then, I mean, throughout this whole process, what we have in our mind is, you know, the consumers already have a certain idea of the Drybar look. And so we don't want to necessarily go away from that. So how do we stay within our look while having to change? And so so that was 2016. I'm not showing the back on that one just because it was more or less similar. 2017, this year, we launched a dry shampoo and dry conditioner with a so
it's getting more complex as we go.
Yeah, exactly. So we just kept adding more just because it was doing well and it was a popular product, and there was additional adjustments to the copy. And so here, what we ended up doing was adding little polka dots to the Lush. And if you look at the center products, the 2017, the newer version of the original Detox Dry Shampoo and Dry Conditioner, actually removed the little description at the bottom. The little description that says, like, absorbs oils and needs to care, feel fresh and clean. We actually moved that to the back just because it was getting so much, like, on the front. Because we were told, like, we need to have the name of the scent on the front. So, like, there's all these people telling us like, what we have to do, right? Like, not just the FDA and the legal department to tell us what needs to happen, but marketing will often tell us, like, this needs to happen because we know that we don't want people to get confused. And these are all, like, valid feedback. And so for Lush, we kept it in the front, but we'll probably end up moving it in the back. The backs of this, I'm just comparing the two dry shampoos, but you can see how much more is starting to fill. And the warning, I think, also got longer. They felt like they needed to add more, so we'll just add more to the warnings. Yeah, and so, and then I think we added more symbols too. Yeah, at the bottom, we were supposed, like, just like more stuff that we're supposed to add. And
it's getting crowded.
Yeah, a lot. And so this is the entire detox line. All the detox cards that we have currently. But it's definitely getting more and more crowded. We are working on 3, 4, 5 languages also, which I'm not able to show you right now, but it's definitely a challenge, right? Because we as designers, we want to make it look good, but then it's like this battle, and yeah. Any questions so far before I move on to the next?
There's questions underneath, but I don't want to jump into those until we. Okay, hold on.
That's fine.
We'll wait till we go. Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
The next project that I wanted to show, so we do a number of promotional items too. So whether it's different seasons or holiday, And actually also wanted to talk about the backs of these boxes too. Just because, I don't know, like I feel like more often than not when I'm out and about looking at different packaging, I feel like the backs kind of become this like forgotten child where they, it's like, I'm sure there's like a lack of time, lack of, all these other things, but, we spend so much time on the front, and, it would have been so great practice to see as nice, and so I'm gonna.
So Jane, just to clarify, those are box sets, right? They are
Yes,
cans that are inside the box. Okay.
Yes, correct. So,
Okay.
yes, exactly. Thank you for clarifying. So the one on the right is what I want to look at, the 3 rounds of detox. It's funny, as I was looking for all of the things, I realized everything I'm tracing, everything's like mint color. So these 3 kits, they're, so one, like I said before, the one on the left was like a new scent, and the one on the right is like a new formula because of the foam. They both, they're all about, it's like dry shampoo and dry conditioner. And so the backs, so 2 of them are new scents, and one of them is a new format. And so this is all the copy that I was given. And, I guess I could just slap all this on the back, but my gut always tells me like, yeah, my gut always tells me like, no, like how do I make it look a little more tasteful? And this box is like a 5-inch by 5-inch, like 13 centimeters by 13 centimeters. It's not that big. It's very small. And I was told that I need to make sure that I call out that 2 of them is lush and what kind of scents notes are in there, and one of it is a foam formula. And I was also told that I need to make sure that like people know there's 3 products, or when they read the back, they understand that there's information for all 3 products. And so I'm just going to go through and show the versions that we had, the different layouts. Just to kind of show like all the different thinking, I guess, that we went through, like in terms of grouping, like do we keep the 3 separate, or like on the right side, do we group the scent and the form separately? Just like, and here we're trying to kind of make it look a little bit more interesting with the little banner. And what we ran into here, like, because on the right side is kind of where at one point I landed, and I got pushed back from marketing saying that it looks like there's information for only 2 products, because it looks like the left is 1 product and the right is 1 product, instead of it being like information for 3 products. So then we ended up having to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out how to call this information out, a lot of back and forth. And then this is where we ended up, where we are both grouping the 2 products, but then we're also identifying the 3 different products. And so, yeah.
Hey, Jane, did we lose you? Okay. So Jane, you're breaking up just a tad, and I just want to check with you guys. I mean, I have a couple questions here, if it's okay to ask you, but also let me know in the chat bar, guys, if you're having some issues, and we'll ask Jane to, okay, Rosie says you can hear just fine. So I was going to ask her to refresh if you guys are having a hard time hearing her. Otherwise, I mean, we can't see you because of the video, or at least I can't. Maybe it's just me. All right. Okay, so just a couple questions. See, Nora, let's see. Sarah is saying, someone also doing localization, how much do you resend the German language? Do you do any German localization on your boxes?
Yeah, so we have on our tools, on our toolboxes, we actually have been working on 5 languages. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So on that one, we have English, French, Spanish, Italian, and German. And yeah, it does end up getting, like, it just becomes a lot. But um, yeah, one of the things that I asked like a bunch of different proofreaders was kind of the rules for the different languages. Just because like I don't know exactly, like, because in French, I was told to put like if there's a colon, that I need to put a space before it. Just like little details, and so like having to get myself educated with the rules of these other languages, even though I don't know how to speak them, is I think it's helpful as a designer, just so that I know if something, if I see something, that it's not an error, but that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then Nora was asking, and I don't know if this is under your wheelhouse, but how do you factor in product packing prices while going through the design process? Do you think about that right at the beginning, or start researching later on?
That's a really good question. I do think of it in the beginning. So I think of it knowing that I'm going to have to face it. But in the beginning, when I start brainstorming, I try to push the limits and put everything out there. And once I push the limits, earlier, before I dive in too far in the process, I will meet with our packaging coordinator, so that they can get prices on, like, is this even possible before I go too far down this route, or is this actually, is it, because sometimes like I don't want to have had spent too much time on an idea, finding out later that it was too expensive, or on the flip side, I don't want to have not spent that time thinking of other ideas, to find out later on that I could have, because, oh my gosh, like this version, because it's smaller, it's actually the same money, so that's more, and so I did it earlier on, but I kind of try to go ahead, like, parallel. So the learning with the conversation with the printers. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool.
I hope that answers. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right. So I'm at the tail end of this. So I guess, like, overall, what I feel is really, really important is three things, and I think it's collaboration, process, and problem solving. Collaboration, just because, like, there's like all these different telling us, like, it seems like they're telling us what to do and how to design, but I think it's, in the end, they're the experts of what they're good at, and we're the experts of what we're good at. And I think it's in a way amazing that we have the power, in a way, to be able to listen to all these different departments, and start working through a process to figure out what this should look like, and solve problems based on what we find, based on the collaboration. And so I guess I'll leave you guys with this. It's essentially the same. So the Henry Ford is a quote from Henry Ford. So coming together is the beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. I think that's kind of like collaboration, process, and problem solving. And I think designers are powerful in that they can do that. And so that's the end of my presentation.
Yay, excellent. Cool. All right, so closing that, And okay, so can you guys see her video? Maybe it's just me. Can you see me okay, Jane?
I can see you fine. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just me. All right. So what I'm gonna do is really quick, I'm going to refresh if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm worried now I might not come back. Okay, so I'll be back in 2 seconds,
Okay.
guys.
All right. Yeah, her internet's been a little bit wonky since this earlier. Nora, I hope I answered your question.
Okay.
You're back.
Yay. All right. So I have questions for you, but what I want to do is go through these questions
Yeah,
because I don't want to ask something that someone already has asked. So what I want to talk also about is what the giveaway is. So I thought maybe, since we have people asking questions, maybe they want to know what they get. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm gonna give away a set of this bag, this Drybar Junkie bag, and these guys.
What is lemon drop?
It's a brush, and this is a little lemon drop. It's a little brush, and so it's a detangler. It's like a paddle brush. Yeah, to detangle your hair.
And there's no limitations in terms of where you're going to deliver? Yeah. That's awesome. All right, so everyone's up for it. And so you were giving away 1 or 2?
2 sets of those.
2 sets. Okay, 2 sets. And then how are we going to, we'll just choose at the end or?
We'll choose at the end. I was thinking I could write down like names of people who, ask questions, throw in a bag, and I could pick it. So it's a little more random than me just like,
Well, I mean, in the past, we've also always done like the most interesting question or a question that you haven't been asked before. But I mean, some of the guests are actually kind of embarrassed to do that because they feel bad. So exactly. That's up to you. So guys, if you see any questions here that you want to have answered first, go ahead and just vote them up. And then we will just answer them in the same order, okay? Yeah. My internet's giving me some issues.
And I'm happy to answer any other questions about packaging. I did focus a lot more on like the layout and type, just because I felt like, it's, I felt like sessions are more about the focus is on typography. But I'm like Dora was asking about like the prices and all of that. I'm happy to answer any of those other questions too. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see how many we can get through here. All right. So Cecile's asking, what advice would you give to new designers that you wish someone had told you when you started? That's a hard one.
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes. Yeah, just because I've made a ton of mistakes, and I guess it just like forces us to learn. But I think when we're afraid to make those mistakes, it prevents me from being able to grow. And I know that maybe as a newer, a young designer, it can be pressuring. But yeah, I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes and even own up to it. I know it's a scary thing. It definitely is, but yeah, I believe in you guys.
How many is on the team now? I mean, so you obviously have people that support you and you can bounce ideas back and forth. So how many people are on your design team?
It's still definitely not very big, but it's definitely growing. So in terms of my team, where we focus on packaging, product design, and merchandising, there's 3 other designers. And then on the marketing side of the previous team, there is 1, 2, 3 designers, 1 art director. We have I forget his exact title, so I feel so bad. But he does. He's like the editor. I think that's what he is. He does all the videos and the creative director. So I think we're about like 10 more or less.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it started off with that really, like,
Wow. That's a small team for 80 salons, and you also have product in many stores. My gosh. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I feel like it's so important because they bring to the table things that I don't necessarily have.
Hmm.
But I think that actually helps to speed things up too. It's efficiency. And yeah.
So that risk taking is not just on your end as well. It's the whole team that needs to learn how to take those risks. Yeah. It's hard working with people who are very conservative or more risk taking than you. You kind of all have to be on the same page.
That is very, very true. That's very true as well.
Okay, very cool. All right, that was a good question. So another one from Cecile. Um, do you work with 3D graphics to design the packaging? Are these photos or 3D renders?
Um, so some of them are photos, some of them are 3D renderings. We do, for all of our liquids, we do create 3D renderings. And the reason for that, there's a number of reasons, but sometimes we want to start promoting this before it's actually out there and before it's produced.
Mm.
And so we don't have anything to photograph. And so we end up having to 3D render it. And so we actually work with a 3D artist in creating the 3D renderings, which, yeah, I think is definitely helpful. Yep.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, and then also on the side of like tools,
Mm-hmm.
we take photographs of those just, and then we'll retouch it after to make it a little bit more perfect. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's see. All right, so Debbie is asking, is there a minimum size type that you use for a readable copy?
So that's a really good question. Like it's like, so what I follow is, so for the US on the FDA side, because we're in like the cosmetic side of it, they actually have minimum size requirements written down for different size containers. And so it kind of all depends on what size your overall container is. Like, for example, if your container was this size versus this size, your minimum type requirement would be different.
So it's a proportion.
It is a
It's a
proportion,
ratio.
but then,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
But then I definitely try to go as small as I can on the warnings and the ingredients, because I want to make more room for like the other stuff that I feel like is more important for people to read, like how to use it and what does it do, and so yeah. And for like Canada, I actually have this with me. Like in Canada, we have there's like a document where they have like, Canada's a little tricky because they actually require like giant symbols on the front. Do
Oh,
you see
yeah.
that?
I
Yeah.
I don't because of my internet, but can you guys see that? As
Oh,
long as
okay,
you guys can see.
okay.
Oh my God, my
You
internet
can
is
see
something else
it.
today. Can you guys
Um,
see that okay?
so in Canada, they actually
Yes, okay, they
require
can.
they require these giant symbols on the front of aerosols. It's for all aerosols. I know, it's crazy, right? Um, it, in Canada, like everyone does it, so they almost don't see it. It kind of disappears and it just goes in the back of their minds. But they have like minimum requirement sizes for all of those too. So I have like documents for that. That shows like a chart here that says like if your principal display panel is so centimeters and needs to be certain size.
I see that.
And so yeah, so there are different websites for different companies, right, companies, countries, that outlines all of these details on sizes and yeah.
I'm moving my laptop because I can see you on my laptop, but I can't see you on the desktop, so it's really strange. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so good question, Debbie. I know that when we were talking to Patrick about environmental design, that there is a minimum size, obviously for signage, for you know, but yes, that's interesting for packaging that it is a proportion.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I agree because like you know like all of this like it's like more than half that's taking up space for. I mean, like, yeah, I'm sure some people read it, but then like these are like warnings, right?
Right,
Like
who's gonna read that?
Yeah, but then like the government says that if you don't do this, then you can't sell products. So it's like we have to. And so then so then because of that reason, it actually becomes like it's not possible to get trouble.
Trouble, yeah, there you go. That's the limitation. Okay, thank you, Debbie, for asking that. Sarah Jean is asking, what resources do you use to learn typography best practices for other languages?
Oh,
Good question.
that's a really good question. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that, so all of the languages that we've been working with so far is they all use like similar looking letters, so to speak. Like there might be an upside down exclamation mark, or there might be, I don't know what it's called, like the C with a little thing. There might be different, it's not like the Asian characters where there's like multiple things instead of characters instead of character. And so I think the basic of typography that we learn in terms of tracking and cutting and burning and all of that that we learn, it still applies. And so because all the languages that I took with is not necessarily like headline per se, but it's more a copy. I apply the same rules there. But I also do look up on the internet grammar rules so that I'm kerning things correctly. That I'm not that I'm making a space look like a space. But yeah, like so like I had mentioned before, like in French, I've been told to put a colon, but whenever I have a colon, I need to put a space before it. And so before I used to speaking English, I would delete it, and then I figured that oh yeah, I have space here, and so then I was like, okay, that looks weird, but I realized like, oh, I just need to like make sure it's kerned right. And it looks fine. It just looks like another space, but it's fine. And so I apply the same rules of typography in the languages.
So you definitely need to have an editor or someone to help you with that to make sure the localization is correct, not only in the grammar, but also the formatting, correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Just because I don't speak the language.
Yes, yeah. It's good to pass those things by other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Hopefully that helps, Sarah Jean. Martin asks, I want to know how you consider designing for a package for in-store appearance and website appearance.
Oh, wait, so the packaging for
both in-store and also website.
Oh, that's a very interesting question.
Do you consider it?
So I definitely consider in-store first. If anything, I definitely consider in-store a lot more just because, yeah, just because,
well, you're there with the stores, right? So you get to actually watch consumers pick up the packages and look at them, right?
Absolutely. And then also we get numbers on like what does better, what does worse. But I think first and foremost, because we do have a general brand look for our main line, at least, on the shelf just so that it's legible.
Right.
The web is, that's a really interesting question, just because like on the web, like everything is so small, right? And so we need to make sure that, you know, they can tell the difference between detox fresh shampoo and detox brunettes, even though they're both called detox.
So
But
I
yeah.
guess your priorities are, the first priority is on the shelf in your own stores. Second is on the shelf in Sephora and Ulta and other places, competing against other brands. And then the third would be what it looks like on the web, only because you can also depend on the digital explanation of what the product is. They're not really not just looking at the image, but they're also reading descriptions.
Yeah.
So they're not as maybe important to you guys. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's why we do, I mean, not I think, but that's why we do the renderings. Because on the renderings, we're able to make it more perfect. And so, whereas like in store, you get to see it like physically.
Right.
And so the renderings, we can cheat things a little bit.
All right. I hope.
Uh-oh, I think she's frozen. Okay, I'll just go on and answer. I know. So Nora said, do you do more sales online or in stores? It definitely depends on like which stores you're talking about, like Drybar stores or Sephora or Nordstrom. But if you're to put it all together, I think we do more in store.
Rosie's questions.
Yes, I started answering more question
Nora's question.
whether we do more sales online or in store. I think we do more in store, and I was saying don't quote me on that because like all of online, like Sephora.com, Trevor.com, all of that like in store. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I have no clue why my internet keeps going out in and out. It's been like this since last night, so I have no clue.
Oh, no.
We'll get through it. So Rosie's asking, where do you look for inspiration, and what is some of your favorite packaging that makes you sit up and go, ooh?
So inspiration, inspiration is like everywhere. I really do try to keep up, like, I don't know, just get curious about everything. And so I actually like whenever I get a little like stressed out, I love just going to, I don't care, like it's supermarket or Home Depot or maybe not Home Depot so much, but like anywhere there's products, I don't know, I just like going and looking at it and looking at what they're doing, whether it's mass or like, you know, like at a department store. I could spend hours just looking, not just at like packaging, but then like anything like marketing or mugs or whatever, like what, anywhere and everywhere, I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah, and online as well. I think I'll look on like a number of different websites to see what other people are doing. And in terms of packaging that I really love,
this is hard. I'm sure you've seen a lot.
I mean, I have like this right in front of me. Like these things make me so happy. Like it's so smart. The Happy Plugs packaging with the little music symbol. Like smart packaging makes me so happy. What they're doing.
So it has a little cleverness to it.
Yeah. They're just like kind of thinking not, but then it kind of goes hand in hand, right? Like because it needs to be clever, but it needs to also make sense.
Right.
So there's like a balance there.
Right.
But
I hope that helps, Rosie.
Yeah, there's a ton of brands that are doing amazing things out there. Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
All right, so we'll get through these. Let's see. And then Angelina's asking, I've always wanted to design a packaging piece. What advice would you give to someone who would like to break into that realm but doesn't have the experience or the portfolio for it?
I would definitely say work on like get a product that you're interested in, and
Right.
just create your own version of
Right.
that
Yeah.
packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And and that will become a piece in your portfolio.
Right.
I think it's and it's so fun. I think like I didn't really get to touch on it, but even like the experience of opening something and like how it looks, you know, when you open the box and what you read, and like there's just so, I find that packaging is just so interesting because there's so much layers.
Mm-hmm.
And so much dimension. You get to move around the box, and having to think of all of that is like a little you're kind of like walking someone through. Yeah,
It's like a story.
it's like a story. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I would also second that and say for sure self-commission your own pieces and just try it. You know, you never know.
Yep.
And whatever you put in your portfolio is the projects you will be getting. So definitely do that. Thank you, Angelina. Garen is asking, do you have any good books or resources you would recommend for packaging design?
I mean, there are those ones that everyone probably knows about, right? Like the, what was it, like lovelypackage.com. There's like there's a I'm so bad with memory, so like when I'm like
Okay. Put on the
on my
spot.
I know when I'm on my screen, I'll just like oh yeah, there's that one. But
Oh yeah, lovelypackage.com is good. I mean, I think, do you use the die line at all?
exactly, die line. See,
Mm-hmm.
like it's like obvious things just like not coming to my brain. Die line for sure. Like I said, I actually do really go out a lot and look at what's out there too.
Mm-hmm.
I what else do I look at stuff?
You know what we could do? I know
Even
because
like magazines, like Creation Arts has really great things. Like there's just a lot of magazines out there that does good stuff too. But yeah, I think it definitely like not just, I would say don't necessarily, and I'm sure you guys don't necessarily just look at packaging, but like, you know, what are people doing with clocks and what are people doing with motorcycles, you know? I think there's definitely an overlap, and yeah, it just gets more interesting that way.
you get more inspired by the way people approach
Yeah,
other things than just packaging per se.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Karen.
Pinterest. Yeah, Pinterest is a good one too. Debbie just said.
Russell's asking, what special considerations does one need to make when designing for a package?
So there are a lot of, I want to say, like legal things that needs to be considered. And I don't know if necessarily like a designer who like if you're a designer who's wanting to get into packaging but doesn't have that resource on like what do I keep in mind, I don't know, I kind of don't think you should worry about it.
Okay.
Because I think it's like it'll come when it comes. And if you want, I think it's maybe a good thing to look at what other products have. Like for instance, let's say I'm going to rebrand a new aerosol for some a made-up company that I'm creating. I can take like the content that's on the back of the, you know, the ingredients and the warning, and just like use that. But there are things like you know, you have to have the weight claim in the front. You have to have, you know, warnings in the back. You need to have ingredients in the back. And so I think it definitely depends on, like, I'm sure food, someone was saying that if they're in food, that's a whole different set of requirements.
Yeah. Yeah. So it depends. I mean, basically for you, there's a lot of FDA regulations and ingredients, and so there's
Mm-hmm.
different considerations depending what area of packaging you want to get into.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So let's see, we're like at 11:58. Should we do a couple more and then
Sure.
okay. All right, so Russell's asking, what has been essential to your success as a packaging designer?
Wait, can you repeat that one? Sorry.
What has been essential to your success as a packaging designer?
Oh, I think, well, thank you. um, I think it's about collaboration. Like I keep saying collaboration, but I think collaboration is so important, because like I could have a great idea, but and in my head it might look great. I might have designed it really great, but then when I get the finished product, if it doesn't look like what I was thinking, then it's like it's kind of sad. Like it's kind of disappointing for myself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I can't be the person that one man band that can just do everything, I think collaboration is so important. And because collaboration is important, I think having respect for others, I think, is so important too, and communication.
Right.
Yeah, collaboration.
Makes it tough for freelance designers, really. You really need people to bounce ideas off, right?
No, yeah, and I think those workspaces, I think it's such a great idea that they have that, but I can see that being a challenge for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, good point, Rachel. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Russell. Let's see. We have a ton of other questions. We're not going to be able to get to every of them. If you'd like, for our last question, Jane, if you want to take a look at the Ask a Question and just kind of scan through those and see if there's anything really specific that should be addressed.
Oh, it's all in here. Oh, I didn't realize where it was. I was like, where are you getting it from?
Yeah, so there's some that are very specific that you might want to address.
There was no votes on any of.
There's no votes, but maybe if there's something here that you feel like that you missed.
Is there anything that you find interesting? I could talk about my biggest mistake.
Okay. Which one is that? Your biggest mistake? Let's see here.
At the very bottom, what's the biggest mistake you've made
there
on
you
a
go.
project that went into production?
Okay. Go ahead. Ooh, that's a good one.
So there was a time, sorry, I know I'm going over. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. When I was designing for triple sec, there's these DB patterns that go up the bottles. I probably have it somewhere, but then like it goes up the bottle, and the DB patterns are there, and then the background fades out. And it was a really complicating project, just because it looked so simple, but then the production of it was quite tricky. And so I was so focused on making that effect look perfect. Mm-hmm. And so because it was tricky, I went on press for that. And so I was in we have a couple vendors for our aerosols, and one of them is located in Mexico City. So I was in Mexico City, and I'm reviewing all of this, and I have them changing colors, and we're almost like at the tail end of like it being like done. And I realized that, so like there's the tiny DB patterns, they kind of go right between the cord. So like Buttercup has a long cord, and then the DB patterns are on the left and the right and left, and they're kind of all around the top. Mm-hmm. And I realized that the DB pattern is cutting right through Buttercup. Like it's like it's not supposed to look like that, basically. And I'm like, how did I not catch this? And so I start freaking out, because like I'm supposed to approve this now. And I am like asking for the proofs. They're like, well, this is what you approved, that you signed off on. And so they give me the proof, and I'm like, oh my God, it was like that on the proof. And I'm like panicking freaking out. And so I ended up calling my boss, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. and we had to change the press, change the plates on press there.
Oh.
That ended up making a delay of like 4 hours delay or 6 hour delay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was definitely a lot of money. But that was like but at the same time, I'm glad that I caught it on press and not like once it was on the shelf. Then I think I would have felt like there was like a knife in my stomach. I would just like died, you know. But
mm-hmm.
yeah, so that was probably one of like the biggest mistakes that I recollect. Yeah, it cost a lot of money, but we fixed it.
But it didn't cost as much as it would be if it landed on the shelf without big issue. Yeah, I would say just to that, as you're learning packaging design, you really need to know your production first. This goes for all design. I mean, environmental design, book design, print design. You just need to know how the ink lays on the paper. And once you know your production, you have an idea of how things are manufactured and fabricated. Then you can design knowing that things are going to be produced just as you see it as well.
Yeah, and there's definitely a overlap. There's definitely a crossover, because before going into packaging, I came from the print world of like paper, mostly paper, and that and I had like the places that I had worked before, they were extremely anal about how they want things printed. So it was good training for me. But that definitely crossed over into packaging. Definitely, there's different things, but crossover for sure.
Yes, totally. Cool. Yeah. Very good question, and thank you for answering that. Okay, so unfortunately we can't get to all the questions. There was 22 questions total, so there are 11 questions that we answered. Do we want to give away within that? So if we'd like, okay, so this is the quickest way to do it, but maybe maybe it doesn't make you feel good. Is that if you click under the answered, the ones that you answered, and you can roll through those and think, or off the top of your head, you just remember some of the two of the questions that you found were very interesting to you, or that you haven't been asked before, then we can choose those two.
Okay.
No one will hold it against you, I promise.
Okay, so I'll pick one from the answered and one from the unanswered.
Oh, you will? Okay.
I mean, because the unanswered ones, there's also good questions there too.
Okay.
Or you know what? I'll just look at all of them.
All right.
I'm sorry. It's taking a while.
No.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone is okay with just hanging on for just a little bit longer. So if you just call out the name, I can at least write it out. Yeah, Rosie was really sweet. No worries. The talk is the real prize.
Aww.
Ones that you thought were thought-provoking.
Okay, I would say
yes. Nora says the suspense is real. That's okay. That's quite all right.
The Angelina asked about advice on breaking into.
Okay. Congratulations, Angelina. And then?
Oh, I didn't answer this one. Tracy asked, how difficult or easy was it to move from print digital to package design? And what tips do you have for someone who would like to try it? That's a good question too. I didn't answer it. I'm sorry. Tracy.
But you get something for asking. Did you want to answer that one?
Um, yeah, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I would definitely say that it was, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily saw it as difficult or easy, but it was fun. And so I guess it is perspective because there was a lot that I had to learn. But there was a lot that I brought from the digital and print world that was not wasted at all. If anything, because of that, it was like, it was just like additional. And so, and if you want to move into that, I would, I think, yeah, it's because, in packaging, you deal with tubes and cans, and these are all different materials, like Rachel, you were talking about before, like there's glass, there's so many different materials that react differently, and they have different limitations and different possibilities. I think once you start designing and then talking with the people who are producing it, ask them tons of questions, and they're usually more than happy to like share everything that they know about like what's possible and what's not possible. And so I guess that's what I would say, share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, congratulations, Angelina and Tracy. Thank you so much again, Jane, for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. I really appreciate it. And again, apologies for my internet issues today. Hasn't been that bad though, right? I only refreshed twice.
Yeah.
So, Jane, how can they find out more about you now? We have a link at the bottom to check out the Drybar if people are interested in learning more about the Drybar and some of the work that you do. But how about if they want to reach out to you or take a look at some of the work that you've done? Where can they get a hold of you?
I mean, I have a very outdated website.
Okay.
So, I mean, feel free to look at that. It's just janemoon.com.
Okay.
But then, yeah, if you have any questions for me, like I'm totally happy to answer them. I can be reached at jane@janemoon.com.
Easy.
Yeah. And so, yeah, definitely.
And then we can also just continue this conversation in the Facebook group. We have a typography Dojo Facebook group where sometimes there's conversation, sometimes there's not. So, all right. Thank you so much for everyone hanging out. And again, thank you, Jane. I know that are you getting back to the office today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, very cool. You guys have something going on today, right?
Yes, we do. So I'm going to head over right after.
Okay, very cool. Well, thanks again for your time and I appreciate it. And guys, have a good day. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.